Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you're new. Today this camel is getting its background. I will be using a mix of Faber-Castell Albrecht Dürer and Polychromos for this. This is just the colors that I'm using. I've just done the samples in Polychromos, so you can in fact use Polychromos for this entire piece. So I probably end up possibly adding some darker colors, but we'll see. If I do, I will let you know. So let's get started. So just to start out, I'm going to use the Burnt Ochre with the Polychromos. You can use the Albrecht Dürer as well. I just happened to pick up the Polychromos for this one. But I'm just going to outline where I want my little desert sand dunes to be. So I'm just making the little lines here. I'm just doing them really lightly and just making some nice sort of soft little sand dunes in the background. So on the side here I'm going to add in a couple of extra lines, and that's going to be where I'm going to add some shadows and everything. So I'm just sort of marking out where the shadows are going to be just by adding these little lines, and it'll all make sense when I start colouring a bit later. So that's it for now with these little lines. I will probably add a few more sort of closer to the foreground later on, but for now let's get started with the sky. So I'm going to be using my Albrecht Dürer to start with the sky. I'm going to do the light cobalt turquoise to start with and just do a full-on layer with that, and then we're going to darken it up towards the top as we go along. You can of course do this whole thing with Polychromos, just go a little bit neater. I'm using the Albrecht Dürer for my base layers for this, literally just to save time. So I can go a little bit rougher in and then just quickly go in and activate with my little water brush afterwards. And I also find it will help me a little bit to get the lighter shade nice and smooth down the bottom without having to add too many layers. So because when you look at a sky, it tends to go, it's really light down by the horizon and then it goes darker as you move up. So that's one of the advantages with the Albrecht Dürer. I can go really light in when I'm activating down the bottom, and I don't have to add too many layers, and it's still going to give me a really good coverage. Now as you can see, a lot of this is very repetitive, so I have chosen to speed up certain parts. I will always show you in real time first exactly what I'm doing, and then I'll speed up probably at least half or 2/3 of it, just so this video doesn't end up being like 3-4 hours long. So I'm just going to now go in on the top half of the sky with the cobalt green, and then we're going to add our darker colors sort of sitting on top of this in our Polychromos later on. It is time to bring our water brush out, so I'm just using this one here, and I've just got it filled with water. I've got my paper towel at ready, and I'm just going to activate the pigment in my Albrecht Dürer and just make a nice smooth layer. there we go. We are pretty much done with this first layer of the sky. So what I'm going to do now is just let this dry, and I'm going to get started on our sand dunes. So I'm going in with my burnt ochre in my Albrecht Dürer, and I'm just going to make a first sort of layer. Again, I'm going in a little bit neater than I did up the top, but not too much, just on this first sand dune. So leave those segments that I've sort of cut in over the head. Just leave those for now. We're going to go in a little bit darker on those, but I'll wait until I've activated the first layer on the sort of the a little bit more of the foreground. There we go. So as you can see, I've left, as I mentioned, these little segmented areas up the top here and on both sides. I'm just going to leave that. I'm going to go in now and just activate, and then we can start off with those sort of top areas after that. I'm just going to quickly go in and do the left hand side of that middle sand dune that's like right behind the tents, and I'm leaving the what's on the right hand side of the tents completely bare for now, and then I'm going to go in now with some darker Polychromos and do more on the sky. So I'm just going to start out up the very top with this bluish turquoise. Now what ended up happening here is that my camera, I moved the book down a little bit and my viewfinder ended up in a spot where he just couldn't focus, so this went quite blurry. So I've skipped a little bit of this, but I'm literally just making like a fairly sort of light layer, as you can see up the top there. You can see it on here, and then I will keep going all the way towards the right hand of this. So I'm going in now with my cobalt green in my Polychromos. I'm just going to start now blending the sort of dark area down into the lighter area. I'll do the same thing on both sides of the paper. I'll just show you this sort of one on the right hand side, but just do this all the way along your blue sky. Going in now with my light cobalt turquoise, I'm blending again into the lighter layers, and as you will see, this will turn up a little bit darker than what those really bottom areas are where I used Albrecht Dürer. So that's one of the advantages of that Albrecht Dürer, that I can really make this lighter color even lighter by watering it out a little bit. So I'm going to add now a layer of my Helio turquoise. So I'm going to go in a little bit darker up the very top here, and then I'm going to blend it down towards the lighter area. And I will move that little clip in a bit. I'll just need to have it there just to hold the paper down due to the having used water on the Albrecht Dürer. It just wants to fold up a little bit. Now I did end up on the other side and went a little bit further down than what I'm doing right here. So you go ahead and add an extra sort of ½ an inch or something like that, a couple of centimeters of extra color, just a little bit further down on the paper, and that way you don't have to go back and do it afterwards. going back in now with the cobalt green and keeping on blending it all down. I will most likely add in another maybe 2 or 3 layers, doing exactly the same thing over and over again with all my colors. So you can go ahead and do that after I show you all of this. I won't show you every single layer because it will make a very long video, so I'll probably do a couple of layers off camera, but just literally repeat the color combination that I've just done another 1 or 2 times. Going to go in here on the other side and do exactly the same thing with the cobalt green and the light cobalt turquoise. So just these two here. I won't show you that again, I'll just do it on the other side, and then as I mentioned, do another 1 or 2 layers at least until you're happy with the saturation of your color. So I'm now going to go back in with my Albrecht Dürer Burnt Ochre, and I'm going to start doing these little segments on the top here. I'm going to go in with a little bit more pigment than what I did on the first layer that I did, just because I want this area to be darker, I want it to be slightly shaded, and then we're going to add more darker colors on top of that in Polychromos a bit later. So I'm just going to start activating this. Now, as you can see, what I'm activating now, because I've got a few layers down and I've gone in much neater and much tighter with my little strokes of the pencil, you can see it coming up much darker than what it did on the left hand side there, even though it's exactly the same color. So this will give me a nice surface to add in some more shading a bit later on. So with this little segment here, I'm going in a little bit lighter again. However, I will be adding a little bit more pigment just where that line is for that front sand dune, just to make sure that you can sort of see the difference between the two. So just activating this little one here, I'm going to add in a little bit of sort of curving on that line. I don't want it completely and utterly straight, Obviously, like the winds and everything in the desert would make these sand dunes sort of curve around a little bit as well. So don't feel like you have to make the lines really straight. You can go and move the pigment around where you want it, and you can make sort of lovely wavy sand dunes. So using the same burnt ochre, I'm just going to go in now and add in a second layer. I'm not going all the way up to the top, but I'm adding just a little bit more sort of color and pigment just to nearly the top, and then going nearly all the way down. I will be adding in a little bit of a line to make another little sand dune a bit further down, so just pay attention to that. I will let you know when that comes up. So I'm just starting to map out here a little bit of a line where I want another sand dune to be. So the sand dune is going to be underneath where I'm going now, so I'm just going in a little bit darker just so we can have that highlighted top of the other one just below where I am at the moment. So as you can see, I'm leaving that little bit of a lighter area. So I've gone in above it, and I'm now going in below, and I'm going to take this burnt ochre all the way down to the bottom. I'm just going to go in up here and just soften these lines just a little bit, adding in a little bit more pigment, and that way when I then blend it all out with my water brush, it will be a little bit more smooth and not have that full-on straight line. So I'm just going to go in now with my water brush and activate this. I haven't done a second layer on the right hand side of the paper yet, so I will show you that in a bit, and that way you don't miss anything. So I'm just going to start activating now down the bottom here. I'll just move it down a little bit, and I'm going to go all the way down. I won't show you all of it. You've seen me do this now a few times, but I'll just go in here up the top, and I'm going to work my way all the way down to the bottom of the paper and everything that I've so far added in that second layer on. I'm just adding in a little bit more here, just like I did on the left hand side. I will go in and go all the way down to the bottom just with a thin plain layer, but as you can see just at the top here, I'm just trying to add in another little bit of a sort of shaded area, and that way we can get a little bit more movement and sort of sand dunes and stuff in on this side as well. So off camera now, I've just added a little bit more of that burnt ochre down the very bottom underneath the camel, and we're now going to go ahead and just start activating the pigment up the top here. I won't show you the bottom, you've seen me do that exact same thing on the left. There's nothing particular there, it's literally just a straight light layer. So I'll show you the top parts here where it's a little bit more, where I've added a little bit more pigment, and I'm sort of just moving it around a little bit. I'm trying to add a little bit more movement by doing some slightly sort of wavy lines and everything like that. So trying to not have too many super sort of dark lines and everything. So I'm just going to quickly zoom out here for you just to show you where we're at the moment, and it'll give you a little bit more of an indication of what I'm sort of trying to achieve. I will be adding more sort of slightly more sort of little sand dunes and stuff in the foreground here as well, and just to create a little bit more movement. So let's go in with a few different colors now. So I'm going to go in with my light yellow ochre, and I'm going to do those sort of lighter areas and sort of slightly yellow them up just a tiny bit. So essentially what I'm trying to do here now is just smooth everything out a little bit more, so I don't have those sort of areas where the paintbrush went a little bit too light or a little bit too dark. So I'm sort of smoothing things out, and I'm going to go in then after this with the burnt ochre in the Polychromos and add a little bit more of that sort of mid-tone and smooth out a little bit more. And then we're going to go in and do some more shading, I think, with the burnt sienna, and make some cool little sort of wavy areas, especially in the shaded areas. So with this burnt sienna, I'm going to sort of work my way down this little line that I've got and then make sort of muffled little lines more horizontally. So I'm sort of, as you can see, going down that little division line there, and then I'm moving my way in a little bit more. So I'm not going in hard, I'm going in a super light, and I'm just building up this color slowly. So sort of just thinking that the wind have sort of swept in and made like little waves in the sand, so that means that the sun will hit in different spots and make these little indentations here and there, and just make it all a little bit more alive, if that makes sense. Now I want to try and add a little bit of like a ripple down the side here. However, I'm not quite sure how dark I want it, so I'm thinking I'll just add in a few with the burnt sienna, and then I might just blend it out with my lighter colours. And I have a feeling I might have to then go in and really sort of tone it down even more just by doing some blending. Maybe I'm thinking of using maybe some Odourless Mineral Spirits, I think, at the end. So we'll see what I'll bring out. You could probably even use a blender pencil if that's what you have, or maybe even one of those sort of blender pens. So just to sort of not have the lines so prominent that we have them at the moment. So I will sort of tone these down as I go. Now my camera stopped just about here, and I did add in a few extra lines. You'll see them, there you go, just on the left hand side there. I've added a few little more. So I'm gonna go in now with my burnt ochre, and I'm just going to tone this down a little bit by adding an extra layer over the top. And I've definitely decided that I'm going to go in with my little paintbrush and an Odourless Mineral Spirit and really sort of blend it together so the lines aren't too harsh, but we still get a little bit of that ripple effect. I've got enough layers now that I'm going to go in with my Odourless Mineral Spirits. I've really wiped my paintbrush off on my paper towel, so it's not very wet, but I'm just going in here and sort of just smushing these lines a little bit, just to sort of make them a little bit less prominent and blend them into that background a little bit more. So I'm just going to add some like little darker areas, like slightly larger areas just on this side here. And then I'm going to go ahead and just add a few more of these sort of sand dune-y lines down the bottom of the page, just as I've done just before as well. Just add like a little gentle line and just go in a little bit darker, a few more layers with your burnt ochre and maybe a tiny bit of burnt sienna if you need to. Just add these little lines wherever you feel like you want a little mini sand dune. I'm not going to show all of it. I will show you when I've added in a few, and then I'll just do a little bit of touch up on them, so you can just add in your own where you want them to be. And here you go. So as you see, I've added a couple of little lines just on the left hand side, and then one that goes sort of alongside the back right foot, and then I've added in a couple of little ones just by the tail there. So I've just been using these two here, burnt ochre and burnt sienna, and as you see, I haven't done a whole lot, just sort of here. I've just gone really light. Some of them I've added in those little bit of ripples that I had up the top here, and it's just literally just use exactly the same techniques as I showed you up the top. I'm just going to add a little bit more of this light yellow ochre down the bottom here where it's a little bit lighter. It might not show up very well on camera, but I'm trying to sort of just fill in those sort of lighter patches a little bit more, and it will just give a little bit of a just slightly more yellow tone just at the front there. Using my burnt ochre again, I'm just going to go in and sort of just touch up a little bit more. I want to smooth out any sort of uneven patches that's not supposed to be there. So I'm just going to take this line a little bit further up and then blend it out a little bit more, and then even out any patches that you might have had from the first few layers of Albrecht Dürer, and then just sort of smooth it all out until you're happy with how your pictures is looking. It will look different if you're using your Albrecht Dürer, it's going to look different for everyone, because it all depends on exactly where you put your paintbrush strokes and all of that. So just keep working on it until you are happy with the smoothness and where you have the highlights. So I'm just going to add a bit of a shadow from the camel down the bottom here. I'm kind of thinking that the sun is sitting relatively high, so I'm going to make majority of this shadow fairly straight underneath, and because it's sitting up the top, I'm not going to get too many lines from, say, the legs and stuff, compared to if the sun was coming, say, from the side or anything like that. So I'm sort of just making it into like a big sort of patch just underneath and just leaving the lines. It just makes it easier to do, and it's not like it's like sunset or anything like that where the shadows are going to be much longer. Just decided to add in one final color, which is my Burnt Umber. Let's see, there we go. And I'm just going to put that just sort of underneath the feet, where I'm thinking it's going to be a little bit darker, and then just right underneath, like in the middle of that shadow, underneath the camel. So I'm not going in hard, I'm just sort of darkening up little spots where I'm thinking it might be a little bit darker. And once we're done with this, I think we're pretty much done. So lightest. If you have any other areas that you want to darken up, you can definitely go in with this one. But then I think we're done. Alright, I'm starting now to get quite happy with how this is turning out. I think I have enough shadow, so let's get the final reveal. There you go. So this is our camel with the sand dunes in the background, all finished and all done. I'm super happy with the colours for this, and I hope you are too if you followed along and used your own pencils. So I'm going to say thank you so much for watching today. If you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a thumbs up. I wish you all a colourful day, and I will see you again next time.